All right, good evening. Thank you all for whoever has joined thus far. We're going to give it just a few minutes before we kick off. Looking forward to a fun and engaging conversation.
Same.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to be here.
yeah, yeah. Is it, what's the weather for you right now? For me, it is pouring rain.
It's pouring over there?
Yeah.
Oh, that means it's on its way over here. I'm in
Oh,
Brooklyn,
no.
so you're probably
Bless
getting
your
it
heart.
first.
Yeah, it's been raining
Ah,
all day though.
it's actually like not raining, but it's very cloudy and foggy, and it just looks kind of depressing. Looks like I'm in like Harry Potter. It feels like.
I actually really like this.
I
All
like
right,
the.
we're a minute in, so we're gonna kick it off. We know folks are either in the midst of their commute or about to commute or at least about to start dinner or something. So we want to just kick it off, and I'll start. I'll introduce myself. My name is Jacqueline. I am the HR consultant manager at Cagebird HR. And today we are going to be having a conversation with Miss Christina. Christina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Costa. I am a certified career and executive leadership coach. I'm the founder of Christina Costa Coaching, where I offer one on one and group coaching programs specifically for job seekers navigating careers in tech. I also do a lot of professional development workshops. I do a ton of work in HR consulting, specifically around employee engagement, inclusion, building, workplaces of belonging and psychological safety. And my most recent endeavor, I wear many hats, I'm sure, like you, Jacqueline,
Yeah.
is I actually work at Baruch College now and I lead the tech leadership development program. So I work with all of their STEM students, helping them land internships and jobs in tech. So really excited about this topic because it's very relevant right now.
Yes, yes, yeah. Talking about relevancy, the
Hmm.
market that we're in right now. So, the focus of our discussion is AI and pivoting during this AI age. Everything now is AI, right? So you go on LinkedIn and folks are like, "Oh, I'm looking for a job," and AI revised my resume, and I'm still not getting hits, right? Like that's a hot point right now, right? Your
Yes.
resume has to match the role in which you're seeking to apply. And how are people reformatting their resume for every single job? They're
Yeah.
utilizing AI.
Yeah.
Christina, can you talk to us a little bit about, first of all, your perspective on that tidbit, and maybe what AI tools might be most beneficial to folks right now?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I want to just share that AI is, first of all, making significant changes across all industries, and people are still playing catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're even in this space right now and you're like, I feel so behind or I don't know what I'm doing, like, most companies also don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing. They're
Yeah.
figuring it out as they go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're completely right, Jacqueline. I think AI, people are utilizing it specifically now for things like resume writing, for things like cover letter writing, for things
Mm-hmm.
like how to send, an outreach message
Yeah.
and really using, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever platforms you're familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get by the everyday, day-to-day tasks now. It's like
Yeah.
what I'm seeing across the board. And so to answer your question, in terms of what platforms, I mean, there's so many out there. I would say specifically for people who are job seeking, right? If you're one of those, career pivoters, somebody who
Mm-hmm.
maybe got recently laid off and you're figuring out, okay, well, how can I make AI work for me? I definitely recommend utilizing tools like Teal. Teal is an amazing tool for resume writing, cover
Mm-hmm.
letters. There's also Rest Easy. I can put a bunch of them in the chat. There's so many tools out there just for resume writing. And the reason that I actually do encourage people to use these tools for resume writing is because the way I look at it, and just so you all know, I used to be a recruiter at Google for several years. So I worked with hundreds and hundreds of candidates. At the end of the day, due to the economy right now and this really challenging job market, right? There's not enough jobs right now to
Mm-hmm.
for the demand.
Mm-hmm.
It all is going to come down to who you know. So I would rather spend less time on the resume and spend
Yeah.
more time connecting with people, reaching
Networking.
out to people, having
Absolutely.
conversations. So let's utilize AI to kind of do the mundane tasks like resume writing,
Yep.
right? Making it as relevant as possible to the job description you're applying to so you can spend more time on the people aspect, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, AI can do many things, but guess what it can't do? It can't hire.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make that final decision, right? At the
Yeah.
end of the day, a human being is the person who's going to decide whether or not they want you on the team.
Absolutely, absolutely. I really appreciate that, and where I want to actually just dive a little bit deeper
Yeah.
is, so we're talking about a volatile job market, and I feel like it's been this way for it. It really has been volatile for a couple of years now, right?
Mhm.
And I think that we're just starting to see things go from what we may have perceived to be bad to what I would say is worse now, right? Because now we're seeing people who are without employment for 12, 24, 36, 48 months, right? To the point where they're running out of unemployment benefits. And, because of how poor our economy is right now, there aren't a lot of external resources like rental assistance and things of that nature. Even
Medicaid.
food banks, yes, yep. Even food banks are, reaching out to communities to help replenish in order to be able to support other folks. So
Yeah.
what I know that we see at Cage Bird a lot is folks wondering if they should pivot from where they were to a different field, a different line of business, something different,
Yeah.
in order to just become gainfully employed. How can we use AI to
Yeah.
support in a pivot? And what does that actually mean, right? What does it mean to pivot in your career? I guess maybe we should start there.
Yeah, pivoting is the name of the game. I think it's really funny. I've actually been known as like the pivot queen because I've had every job in tech, every
Yeah,
non-technical job in tech
yeah,
is essentially what I've done in my career prior to having my own business, which is also another pivot, which
yeah,
was also another
yes,
pivot.
yep.
So, at the end of the day, I tell this to my clients, I tell this to my students. The number one skill set that you are going to need to survive any economy is a
Mhm.
growth mindset. And so, what that means is essentially understanding that it is your responsibility to take control of your professional development,
Mhm.
right? You can have a manager, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be pouring into you. That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
they're going to be supporting your growth. Great managers do that, but there
Yes.
aren't many great managers,
Yeah.
right? I think that's what
Unfortunately,
I've
that's true.
seen across the board.
Yep.
Um, so what I'm going to share with you all is just thinking about how can you use AI
Mhm.
in a way that it supports you as a tool, right? A tool for your own development. So prompt engineering is huge,
Yeah.
right? So thinking about, what is it that I really want to learn about myself? What are some of my strengths? I always say start there,
Yes.
right? Because 75% of your skills are transferable.
Mhm.
That's what people don't understand. They think, oh, well, how can I go? I'll give an example. I went from being a advertising operations at PayPal to going into customer success at HubSpot to then being a digital marketing manager at a fintech startup to then
Mhm.
being head of learning and development at a career training program.
Yeah.
All of these pivots, right? You may think, oh my God, those roles are so different from each other. But they all required many of the same skill sets:
Yeah.
relationship building,
Mhm.
effective communication, collaborativeness, innovation, being able to be organized,
Yeah.
project management, right? Being able to see a project from start to finish. So a lot of those skill sets, right, are directly transferable. So what I recommend for everyone in here who's thinking about pivoting or thinking about, okay, my job is no longer relevant, or
Mhm.
this is no longer a role that people are going to be hiring for. I want you to think about in your past role, right? What were the areas that you believe are your strong suits,
Yeah.
right? Thinking about what are your actual strengths. And if you don't know what that is, you can do a Clifton Strength Finder for $20. You can do one online. You can have conversations with, 5 to 10 people who know you the best and ask them, what am I really good at? What are my strengths? What do you think is something that, what is my superpower? What do you think I'm really like talented with? And then once you kind of uncover those strengths, then you can think about, okay, well, what other roles are applicable? And that's where you can use AI,
Yeah.
right? Go
Yep.
into the AI, put in a prompt. Okay, I have these different strengths. This is a little bit about my background. What are some other relevant opportunities
Hmm.
out there in the job market that would require or that would use these strengths and
Yeah.
these and this background and experience that are available right now? You can use that information to
Hmm.
prompt the AI to help you kind of expand your perspective because
Yeah.
I actually use AI with my clients. Like when I have
Yeah.
a coaching call with clients, I'll be like, "Hey, let's go into Chatty. I call her Chatty. Let's go to ChatGPT and put in some of your, biggest strengths,
Yep.
some of your interests, and some of your skills,
Hmm.
and let's see what pops up." Right?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised when they say, "Oh my God, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a role that existed."
Yep. Yep.
Um, so that's one great way to use AI to your advantage. And again, it takes you being creative, being innovative, asking it the right questions
Hmm.
for it to give you really helpful and useful information that you can then use to navigate that pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's really interesting is there was I guess we'll call it a trend. There was a
Hmm.
trend going on for a little bit where folks were dropping their resume into AI tools and asking them, if I couldn't keep my job title as XYZ, what are other job titles that align with my background and experience? Upload the resume, hit enter,
Mm.
and they were surprised at all of these responses, job titles that they never even considered that were coming up as part of their background. And I find that your analysis aligned so well with this of 75% of our skills are
Yeah.
transferable and we
Yeah.
just don't even know it.
Or we don't think about it, right? Like we
Nope.
don't, I'm only aware of how many jobs are out there in the market and the kind of jobs that exist because I'm a career coach.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And
Yep,
because I'm
yep.
talking to people from all industries and I'm
Yeah,
talking to
yeah,
industry professionals across different companies. And so,
yep.
even myself, when one of my first jobs, I was working at HubSpot and
Hmm.
I was a partner channel success manager.
Yeah.
No one knows what the heck that is, right? So
Funny that is.
look on my LinkedIn and it says customer success manager. People
Yeah,
know what
yep,
that is,
yeah,
right? And it
yeah.
was the exact same
Yep.
role. But, a lot of these companies have their like jargon and they
Right.
want to use
Of
their
course.
like lingo or whatever. But really, ultimately, it's the same role, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I love that you mentioned that because I even did it myself. And this pre AI, I was like, no one knows what the heck that is. I'm going to
Yeah.
put in customer success manager because
Yep.
people know what that is.
Well, that's also, the advisement from some resume writers, right? And it's interesting because anytime there's like a free resume writing, whatever, or if it's, super cheap, I'll try and join it just to
Yeah.
hear, because you hear so many different perspectives on resume writing, right?
Uh,
Some say to do this, some say to do that. But one of the things that I found really interesting in the last couple of resume writing sessions that I've attended were, folks were saying to make sure that your job titles on your resume align with the job that you're looking for. So for
yeah.
example, if they use the partner channel, success
Yeah,
manager
success
job title,
manager.
make
Yeah,
sure that's what you're using because for a recruiter that can be
yeah,
confusing, right?
yeah,
Oh, they're looking for this specific title in your background and your experience and they don't see it and they
yeah,
just skip over it. And you think about the volume
yeah.
of candidates that they're going through right now. They're the what is it, 30 seconds, like less than 30
It's
seconds,
six
your resume.
seconds.
Yeah, wow, even shorter time
Especially
frame.
if it's a larger organization, right? Because you can
Yeah,
imagine the amount of applications I got at Google,
yeah, yeah, oh
right?
yeah, oh yeah, company like Google,
Yeah,
Amazon, Meta,
Amazon.
like, yep, yeah,
Yeah,
oh
so
yeah.
true. So true. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
no.
true.
So it's funny because you were saying that, these job titles, people say them. I speak to clients every single day and they tell me their job title and they then proceed to try and describe it to me. And I'm like, supported that line of business, very familiar with what you do.
Yeah,
They're like, oh my God, nobody ever knows. Like, but I'm like, no, no, I'm very familiar.
yeah. But well,
So,
that's the beauty of HR, right? Like you get to
yes.
touch all the different departments,
Yep.
because you're supporting all the different
Yeah.
departments. So
I know for
that's really
sure.
interesting.
For sure, for sure. So now jumping back into how we can really capitalize on AI in this market, do you have like any prompts that you would suggest using, besides really understanding our skill set and our background and things like that? Are there any other prompts that we should be using within AI tools in order to support in a pivot? Maybe something more geared towards actually having to interview for a position we're pivoting into.
Yeah. I don't have like a specific prompt per se, but
Yeah.
I will share a few ideas, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think for specifically those who are pivoting, right? Pivoting could look so many different ways. It could
Hmm.
be you're leaving healthcare and you want to go into education. It
Yes.
could be that you were in a role where you were maybe internally facing and now you want to do something externally facing, right? So it
Hmm.
really depends on what that pivot looks like.
Yeah.
But a few questions that you should definitely think about as you are pivoting is first and foremost, in the chat GPT or Gemini or whatever platform that you use,
Yep, yep, yep.
not only asking about your skills and your strengths, but also seeing what the workforce trends are and where do
Hmm.
you see growth in terms of roles, right? And
Yeah.
opportunities. So right now for example, in New York City, there's going to be a huge influx of healthcare roles.
Hmm.
And not just, and when I say healthcare, I don't mean just in the hospitals. I mean healthcare tech, biopharma,
Hmm.
biotech, right? It really expands across all those different areas. It's not just nursing and
Yeah, yeah,
doctors,
yeah.
because they definitely need a lot more. I mean, I've heard from multiple, really great connections in the hospitals
Yeah.
that the hospitals are really struggling right now to hire nurses, especially.
Hmm.
But across health tech too, right? There's just such a need in the healthcare sector to advance in their technology, right? And,
Yeah.
and their in their cybersecurity and their data and analysis. Just because healthcare, similar to education, a lot of times is behind, right? They can be
Yeah. Yep,
very
yep, yep.
behind. So one thing I'd recommend is in whatever AI platform you use, just asking, where do you see the most growth
Hmm.
opportunities, just so that you also understand, if you're going to pivot, making sure you're pivoting somewhere that is going to have growth opportunities,
Yeah.
right? Somewhere, an industry where, hopefully you'll have more job security,
Hmm.
right? And then also asking, you can even ask ChatGPT, what steps do I need to take in order to go from this, whatever role you have now, to this? Like you
Yeah.
can literally get as granular as specific. I actually recommend the more specific, the better,
Yeah.
right? Because it'll actually give you a step by step, like these are the steps that you need to take in order to make that pivot.
Hmm.
And then the other thing I'd recommend too, and this is the reason I was able to pivot, so many times, was because of my relationships,
Yes.
and also just being very visible, right?
Hmm.
So the other thing I recommend for people who are pivoting, thinking about what is my professional brand? How am I represented online?
Hmm.
First and foremost, and Jacqueline, you work in HR. We live on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? If we
Uh,
are looking for candidates, if we're looking to hire, like we are living and breathing in LinkedIn.
yep.
So, the days of like, oh, I'm just gonna be a quiet introvert, not let anyone know what I'm doing,
Yep.
let people find me somehow. I don't know how. Those days are done.
Yeah.
It really is about the number one skill set besides growth mindset afterwards is visibility,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
and visibility right now is virtual.
Hmm.
So how are you representing yourself on LinkedIn? You can use ChatGPT to write a great headline,
Yeah.
right? You want to make sure your headline represents that pivot that you want to make. If you want to
Hmm.
go from, for example, I have a client right now I'm working with. He works in tech and he wants to go into biotech. So
Oh,
he works
nice.
specifically in like travel tech and
Hmm.
he wants to go into biotech.
Wow.
Just
That's
because
a
he was
pivot.
big comment. He's super interested in it. He's like, I live in Boston. There's a ton of biotech companies
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Like that's where the money is, right?
Yep.
Healthcare benefits, all the things. And so, one thing I've urged him to do is, okay, well, if you're going to be having conversations with people in the biotech, biopharma industry, you need to start showing a genuine interest for it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe even posting articles or like research about, he works in finance, so finance and biotech,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe like pivoting and showing that
Yeah.
genuine interest so that when someone comes to your page, right, they see, okay, he doesn't work in biotech, but he has genuine interest in it,
Yeah.
right? And you can use ChatGPT to help you create engaging LinkedIn posts,
Yeah.
to think about, topics that you could talk about. So there's so many ways that you can use it, but you just have to be mindful about the questions that you ask and get really, really, really specific.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the posts, as of late that I've been seeing on LinkedIn specifically, definitely seem AI written, right?
Yeah,
It's, and I think that one of the things that I try to be cognizant of and even, coach clients on is, if we're going to post something, first of all, make sure you have, full scope knowledge of it.
yeah.
Nothing like posting something, getting engagement, but not being
And
able
then
to
be like,
respond.
I don't know how to
Yeah,
answer
because you bit
that.
off just a little bit more than you can chew. And I think
Yeah,
that that's sort of like the gift and the curse of AI, right?
yeah,
You will get an absorbent amount of information, but at the same time, how much of that information do you fully understand? Now, when it comes to that pivot, I like your suggestion of, you may not be here now, but seem engaged in it.
yeah.
What, besides posting on LinkedIn, what else would you suggest that folks seeking to pivot really dive into?
Yeah. So definitely upskilling,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
I think, and again, that goes back to the growth mindset. The only constant in life is change.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It's the only thing that we are consistently going to have to overcome and have to
Yeah.
deal with is change. And a lot of the change that happens is out of our control, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And what you can control, though, is how you react to the change,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how you essentially grow with it.
Yeah.
And so what I recommend, for people specifically looking to pivot is think about, well, how can you start educating yourself
Mm-hmm.
in this new industry, in this new field, in this new role, whatever that pivot looks like for you? How can you start, number one, meeting people in those spaces, right? Meeting people who are doing the thing that you want to do,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
that's one thing I always recommend. I'm such a huge fan of mentorship
Mm-hmm.
and of learning from others, because that's honestly 80% of professional learning comes from mentorship,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's why, make mistakes when you can learn from someone who already made the mistake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
It's like having
definitely
your own big sister or brother.
exactly, exactly. So, first and foremost, I always say, reach out to other industry professionals, other
Mm-hmm.
people that are in the spaces that you want to be in,
Yeah.
right? And get to know them and ask them questions. The other thing is, take your development into your own hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start reading books about that topic,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe take a course or a certification. I mean, there's so many online courses now, even free, like
Free ones. Yes,
YouTube
for sure.
Academy, right? Like
Yes. Yep.
YouTube has so many free classes,
Yep.
Udemy, Coursera,
Mm-hmm.
you name it. There's the amount of boot camps that exist. Like there's so much information out there. So try to learn
Yep.
as much as you can about whatever that role or that industry is that you're looking to go into. Obviously, visibility is the huge one that I was telling you
Mm-hmm.
about, like making sure that you're also visible and
Yep.
showing an interest in whatever that topic may be. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, events, right? Like going to events,
Yep.
conferences, virtual events. There's so much that, there's so many different ways that you can connect with people. And I know this conversation is mainly about AI, but I don't want people to lose sight that at the end of the day, the person
The person.
decides,
Yep.
right? Who
Living,
is going
breathing
to come
person.
in
Yep.
or not. And yeah, AI can help facilitate, certain things like your
Mm-hmm.
outreach messages, or,
Yep.
maybe your LinkedIn posts or your resume writing or whatever, or your cover letter. But what it can't do is decide, right, who is going to be the best fit for this role. Well, at least not yet. It's
Well,
not
I was
doing
gonna say, you know what's
not,
actually scary is
and it's scary because if that does happen, I also think there's gonna be a lot more lawsuits, more
yes,
business for
no,
you.
there will, yes, but
Cage bird. um,
hashtag Cagebird HR.
they figured it out. So yeah, so I would say, like, not losing sight that yes, it is important to learn about AI and understand what tools are out there, and being, I don't want to say everybody has to be an expert in
Yeah.
AI, but at least being knowledgeable
Mm-hmm.
to it, because I heard this woman speak the other day. She works in workforce development, specifically
Mm-hmm.
here in New York, and she made a really great suggestion. And she said, okay, for anyone in your job right now, absolutely anyone in a job right now, try to do your job using AI. That's literally what she said. If the parts of your job that you can do with AI are probably the things that are going to become more automated
Yes.
and not necessary.
Yeah.
So the things that you cannot do with AI, those are the areas that you really want to develop
Focus. Yeah.
and focus on,
Yeah. No,
right?
that is powerful,
Yeah,
right?
when she
So
said that, I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. But she was like, literally, try to do your job, whatever it is that you do, right?
yeah.
Whether it's HR, whether you work in marketing, whether you work in product development, I don't care,
Yep, yep,
right?
yep.
Try to do your job using AI and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because and I know companies want to cut costs.
Yes. Yep.
And that's what companies are in the business of: efficiency and cutting costs,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
if they can do things more efficiently and they no longer need you, right? That's where the cut comes in, and that's where you
Yeah.
lose your value, right? So whether we like it or not, AI is here.
It is
It's not going anywhere,
becoming more and more
unfortunately.
robust.
Yes, it's going to only become more robust. So it really is, up to us, as an individuals, to really try to equip ourselves for that change and be
Yep.
ready. And if we resist, right, and if we're like, no, I refuse to look at it, I'm not going to use it, that's for somebody else, well, guess what? You can potentially be replaced, right? So it's really
Redundancy.
about owning
Absolutely.
owning that job. And to be honest, what I've been seeing more and more and more in just the job market and roles and all these like reorgs and restructurings that's been happening, is kind of this return to, we were talking about this earlier, like soft skills, which I call your
Yeah.
power skills.
Yep.
Because AI can't collaborate,
Mm-hmm.
AI can't delegate,
Hmm.
AI can't lead,
Yeah.
AI can't build relationships. AI can't. Well, maybe it will. Those like, have you heard of those AI, like
Dating
the
apps.
dating AI,
Yes.
like
Yes.
whatever, but when that's
We're-
not real,
we're-
right? But AI can't build a strong customer
yeah.
relationship, partnerships, like
Yep.
all of these things that were once deemed as soft skills, right? Having emotional intelligence, the
Mm-hmm.
ability to be creative and innovative. AI is not creative.
Yeah.
We are the ones who prompt it,
Yep.
right? Our
Yes. Yep.
creativity prompts it. And essentially, what AI is, and I heard this the other day on a podcast that I thought was really interesting. It's basically the calculator for words.
Hmm.
So you remember back in the day, I don't know if we were around before calculators, but back in the day, when people didn't have calculators, they had to know how to do,
Yep.
right, all the
Yep. Yep. Yep.
multiplication, division on their own. Then the calculator came and we just plugged in numbers and we assumed for it to be right. We assumed it to be right because
Yeah.
who checks a calculator?
Nope.
Does anyone ever go, let me fact check this calculator?
Yeah.
Right? And now we've evolved to, now we have a calculator for words,
Mm-hmm.
which is what AI is. And
Yeah.
it's a little bit scary because it tries to like kind of take away from like critical thinking,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's something, so that's why I say like critical thinking is a skill set
Yeah.
that AI does not have, right? And those are things that we really need to lean into now. Like if you're an amazing communicator, this is your time,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If you're a person who works really well cross functionally and can bring multiple teams together to work together, this is your moment. Like, if you're able to, build really strong relationships and, have retain your customers or get them to buy
Hmm.
more or whatever, like this
Hmm.
is your moment to shine, right? Like
Yeah.
those are the skills that AI cannot replicate.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
AI being a calculator of words. Like that
Right? When they said it on the
actually
podcast, I was
makes,
like, oh my God, that's really what it is.
yeah, it makes
Really
so
what it
much sense.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I literally use AI for so much, like
So do I.
so much. But I think that one of the things that becomes a little concerning is that everything becomes so AI driven to the point where that you can tell that there's a lack of human touch, right? When you start to consider like the evolution of AI that's coming, and I mean, you just spoke a
Mm.
little bit about, AI not being able to make that final decision. We have seen where, we've seen the LinkedIn articles and such of, applicants being discriminated against during the application phase.
Yeah.
And the assumption is that it is an AI driven decision, which resume gets previewed and moved on to, one stage or the other.
Yep.
What do you think that applicants can do, if anything at all, in order to sort of AI proof their resume on that, especially with all these companies using an ATS?
So that's funny that you said that because I think AI was the counter to the ATS, right? So like we as recruiters and companies thought we're like, well, we're going to become more efficient and we're going to
Yeah.
use applicant tracking systems to read through thousands of resumes so that we don't have to manually do it, right? And like
Mhm.
that's the way we're going to, combat volume or whatever. And then AI came along and was like, oh, okay. So you're going to use AI to source through us? Well, we're going to use AI against you.
Yeah.
Right? So like I really see it as like the employer like tool versus the candidate tool.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? So I wanna share I'm gonna be really frank. I don't think there's a way to AI proof. I think, as I mentioned before, it comes down to relationships,
Yeah.
right? So instead of spending so much time trying to create the perfect resume, because I have a lot of stats on this. For example, on LinkedIn, only 3% of applications that get submitted through LinkedIn make it to human eyes.
Oh, wow.
3%.
3%.
3%. So if you have
3.
100 applicants, only 3 of them are going to make it to the recruiter, right? To the actual recruiter to see it. So I'm of the belief like those are really low.
That's
That's a
really low.
really low like percentage. You
Yeah.
have a much higher chance of someone seeing your application if you're reaching out to someone internally and getting a referral,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm always about, okay, resumes, of course, it's important to have a solid resume, but we cannot rely on our resume.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot rely on our resumes. We have to rely on relationships.
Yep.
And those take time and effort to build.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm of the belief of, okay, let's let ChatGPT write our resume
Yep.
and let us focus on the human part,
Yeah.
right? On making sure someone sees our resume. And
Mhm.
that's not just having all the amazing keywords on that resume, right? Like, because there's even times, when I was at Google, for example, um, we would get hundreds of applicants per role.
Yes.
I really only had time to look at maybe 20 to 30, right? So maybe you did have the most amazing resume, but you were applicant number 177.
That is so
And
true.
guess what? I just don't have the time or the space to look at 177
Yeah.
resumes.
No,
But you know who did get an interview? The referrals, right?
of course. Of course. Of
So
course.
that's why I'm always telling my students, even, and my clients, like, I'm trying to get you in so there's like 4 buckets of candidates. Internal,
Mm-hmm.
right? They get first dibs. You know that they get
Yep.
first dibs on everything.
Yep.
Second bucket is referrals.
Referrals.
They
Yep.
also get first dibs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Third bucket is not applicants. That's what people think. It's sourced. So
Oh,
I found you on
yes.
LinkedIn or
Okay.
something, right? And you had some really strong app, you had a strong profile, like
Mm-hmm.
just you have it going on. And I reached out to you. And then the fourth and final bucket are applicants. And maybe I'll look at the first 50.
Yeah.
So it really does become kind of like a game of like chance when you just rely on the resume.
Now, when you're talking about, that's so funny just to consider those four buckets. When you're talking about now that fourth bucket, how often do you think companies are even making it to that fourth bucket?
That is a beautiful
Yeah.
question because a lot of that's why I said I maybe only looked at 20 applicants because I would have already had maybe 10 to 12 amazing candidates in those first three buckets.
Yeah.
Right? I already had maybe like three internal people, five referrals, six referrals, and then maybe like two sourced. So at
Mm-hmm.
that point, I'm like, okay, I really only need like maybe 10 more candidates,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, I would say to answer your question, I did always make it a point, because I was really passionate about equity and
Yep.
making sure that we were giving people opportunities, to have an interview. But not every recruiter is made equal.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
part too.
Oh man.
That part too.
Yes.
But I would make it a point to at least look at like 20 to 30 applications. But to be honest, sometimes we would have like 200 applications, and I
Yeah.
and I felt so bad because I'm like, I just don't have the bandwidth to look at 200 resumes,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And so ideal, like ultimately, it really depends on the volume. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably like after referrals sourced and like internal, maybe you're looking at like 10 to 20%,
Wow.
you
Wow.
know?
Wow. And so, yeah, and then I guess that really just goes to the point of not spending so much time on the resume, right?
Part.
Let AI do the work for
Yeah,
you there.
yeah,
Focus more time and attention being a referral or,
of
having a
course.
strong LinkedIn
Hmm.
profile, being a sourced candidate. Yeah, that's really, really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Really, really interesting. All right. So before we wrap up, I always love to ask, are there any tips, tools, little nuggets that you want folks to walk away with, in order to feel empowered to pivot during, this age of AI?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say, this is a challenging time for
Hmm.
many people.
Yes.
So if you're feeling, isolated or, anxious or just really like overcome with, I don't want to say grief, but just like anxiety, right? Like I
Yeah,
think people
yeah,
are just
yeah.
feeling very much on edge right now. I want to say that you're not alone. So first, I want to just let people know that you are not alone. So what I want people to take from this conversation is that first and foremost, you can change. You can do something different.
Hmm.
You can pivot and you can do a completely different role and work in completely different industry. I'm not saying it's going to be easy.
Yeah,
So that's the second part,
yeah, yeah.
right? I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it is possible. It is
Hmm.
possible if you take your own development into your own hands, right? If you start to prioritize, learning and growing and upskilling yourself and making,
Hmm.
having these connections, building these relationships. I call it building your community of support,
Yeah.
right? And it's so important to have a community of support, people who, could potentially mentor you, people that you could learn from, people that maybe, those people who just like always say people's names in certain rooms and certain spaces. I'm like that. I'm a plug. Everybody calls me the plug. Like I'm always just like plugging people in. I'm like, oh, you're hiring. You should talk to so and so. Oh, you
Yeah.
need that. You should talk to so and so, right? Like,
Yep.
and thinking about how can you also add value,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what a lot of people think, especially younger people or especially people who are moving into like something completely new, they're like, well, what can I bring? Like, what value do
Mm-hmm.
I bring? And I'm here to say that you all have value,
Yeah.
right? Like even having a conversation with someone and being present and asking really curious questions and just
Mm-hmm.
really like acknowledging what someone says is valuable,
Yep.
right? Even saying, hey, to someone who may be way more senior than you, hey, have you heard about this really cool article, or have you learned about this new tool that's out, and sharing
Mm-hmm.
that with them, that's valuable,
Yep.
right? Like, so I want to encourage everyone in here in this space right now to try to, number one, give yourself some grace. Number two, start learning.
Yes.
Start learning. Use AI to help you learn,
Mm-hmm.
right? Use AI, get curious with it. Ask it really specific, as specific as you can. You
Yep.
can literally get as specific as you can. You'll get the better responses as the more specific prompting that you give it.
Mm-hmm.
So be really, really specific with your prompting. Understand your strengths. I think that's a huge one because
Yeah.
you want to play to your strengths,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? We all have weaknesses.
Yep.
I'm not great at spreadsheets and
Mm-hmm.
attention to detail. That's just not my strength, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to work, I'm not going to take a job that requires spreadsheets all day and attention to detail, right? Like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense for me. For me, I've learned that my strengths are public speaking, engaging people, creating workshops and training and developing
Mm-hmm.
people. Like those are my strengths. So any role that I go into, I've worked in HR, I've
Mm-hmm.
worked as a teacher, I've worked as a coach. I'm
Yeah.
now a program manager and I'm working specifically with students and coaching students sometimes and leading workshops and trainings, right? So there's so many ways that I've gone with those skills,
Yeah.
that wasn't just tied to one role,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was a recruiter. I was learning and development. I was customer success manager. I was what's another role that I've had? Digital marketing manager. I was an international student advisor,
Yeah.
right? Like I've had so many roles, but all of them use those same core strengths. So I
Yep.
want everyone in here to really, really dive deep into your strengths and understand what is your secret sauce. What are you really
Yeah.
good at? I want you to get curious. I want you to start trying to learn as much as you can about that pivot, about that new industry, about that new role.
Mm-hmm.
Learn from others, learn from books, learn from, going on AI and asking ChatGPT, what are the best steps to go from this to this?
Mm-hmm.
Take your development into your own hands. And lastly, don't do it alone, right? That's the other piece. It's like, put yourself out there, start talking to people. That is the way I've gotten almost every job that I've had, was
Yeah.
because I made solid relationships
Yes.
and I followed up with people, and people knew my ethics and my
Yep.
values and what I stood for. And that's the other thing I would say is like, be authentic.
Yeah.
Especially when you're having these conversations with people. Like, not everyone's going to be your people,
Yep.
and that's
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Right? The point is, you're looking for the ones that are,
Yeah.
because those are the ones who are going to go hard for you. Those are the ones who are going to say, "Oh, Jacqueline, you need an HR manager? Let me connect you to Jacqueline."
Yeah.
Right? So that's something I want to just encourage people. And then the other thing I want to encourage people too is, a lot of times, a lot of my students are like, "Oh, I have to talk to the most executive person there, or the
Yeah.
highest person at the company," and I'm
Yep.
here saying, those people are usually really busy. So
Yeah.
let's be real. Most referrals come from people on your level,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
People who are colleagues, maybe someone that you went to school with 10 years ago, right? Like maybe they're working at a company that you're really interested in working at now. Hey, reach out to them.
Yep.
Hey, I know we
Impact and
haven't talked in
influence.
10
That's all you
years.
need.
Yeah,
Not an
I know we haven't
executive job
talked in
title.
10 years. I see that you're killing it at
Yep.
whatever company. Like, I would love to chat and just catch up and see, what have your experiences been there? Have you liked it there
Yeah.
so far? Right? And not making it transactional.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where it gets gross. We don't want to be
Yeah.
transactional. We want to be, genuine. So
Yep.
I would say AI is just another tool in the toolkit. It's something that, whether we like it or not, it's here to stay.
Yes.
Don't
Absolutely.
resist it. Try to learn about it. Try to see what tools make sense for you in
Yep.
your career and in the maybe the new role that you want. And then the last piece I said earlier, like, try to do your job. For those in here who are employed,
Mm-hmm.
try to do your job with AI. I
No.
encourage you to just
It's,
try,
it is
right?
going to be so scary. That is
So
going to be
yeah,
so scary for
yep,
folks.
yeah.
Yep. No.
But it's the reality because that's what companies are going to be looking at. Oh, well, what can we do with AI? Okay, so if we can do
Yep.
that with AI, then why do we need Jacqueline
Yeah,
here?
exactly. Right. I can pay, several $100s a year for this tool
Hmm.
versus, a few $100,000 plus all of the other
Yeah.
things for this person. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So get really
Awesome.
clear on those
Awesome.
things, right? Like get really clear on like your strengths, get really clear on what skills, that you really want to be developing
Mm-hmm.
and start developing them,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. No, in that, really, I know we focused a lot on speaking about, our skill sets and, how we can utilize those to, translate into different roles and things of that nature. But to your point, we really should be also trying to figure out how to develop in our areas of opportunity. And we
Yeah.
can use AI to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, to one of your earlier statements about maybe not being that interested in data analytics, granted, data analytics is definitely something that AI can do, right? But you want to be able to speak to it, right? Because AI can only do but so much. Now you want to be able to speak to it. Well, use AI in order to understand it first,
Yeah.
and then you can speak to it. AI can almost translate it for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, oh,
It's
that's awesome.
exactly right. So like it is, it's a very unnerving
Yes.
thing
Yep.
because we still don't know the repercussions
Mm-hmm.
of AI. Like this is still very early on.
Yeah, incredibly no.
We don't know what it's going to look like next year
Yep.
or in 2027 or whatever. But
Yeah.
but what we do know is that AI is here to stay, and if you resist it, right? If you refuse to learn about it or learn how to do your job with it, guess what? Someone else will,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yeah. Remember, we used to have like physical meeting note takers. I remember like that. Yes, when
No.
I worked in a bank, we had somebody that, like, one of the office assistants that would come to the meeting and she would strictly be there to take notes.
Yeah.
Now you just run any one of these
Otter,
apps.
fireflies,
Yeah. Yep.
whatever.
And it'll take the notes
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh
I
yeah.
the one I think about the most honestly, Jacqueline, before we head out, because this one always messed me up when I was younger. Remember when there used to be people on the highways that you would pay the
Toll
toll
booths.
people?
Oh my goodness. I just crossed to George Washington the other day. They are gone.
Oh,
They're gone.
but they've been gone for a long time, I
Oh
feel.
my goodness.
And I remember the first time there was toll booths with no people, and it was just a machine. And I was like,
Yep.
and I think I was like in college or high school. It was a long time ago. And I
Yeah.
remember being like, what happened to all the toll booth people? I was like, wait, what? There used to be people, and now there's machines.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the foreboding
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
technology. And to be honest with you, the reason I pivoted, so funny story, I used to work in education. My first job was a teacher. I was a teacher. I was a teacher for 3 years. Then I came back to the States. I was teaching abroad. Came back to the
Hmm.
States, worked in higher education as an international student advisor. Then I did a 180 pivot to PayPal. All right. So I went from international student advisor to advertising operations at PayPal. So I'm proof that you can pivot,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But the reason I made that pivot was because I saw just things becoming more and more technologically advanced.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, okay, everything's an app now. Everything is being done online now. I was like, this is just going to become larger and larger and larger. And this is where all the money is right now. And that
Yeah.
was the reason I made that pivot. So I was
Yeah.
my own like chat GPT and I was like looking around and just seeing and noticing. And I was like, And all of my international students, most of them were engineers.
Oh
And they were all,
wow.
and so I was
Of
helping them getting
course.
their
Yep.
H-1Bs and their job offers and all that
Yep.
stuff. So I learned a lot about H-1B and visas and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And they were getting like 150K first offer. I was like at Google or first offer at, Netflix or whatever. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I need to do that. I was like, what is happening? I need to go
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
And that was what prompted my first really big pivot into
Yeah.
tech. So, everybody has their own story, but pivoting and changing and growing and developing yourself is something that you are going to do for the rest of your life.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, and it's just whether we like it or not, like that's a skill set. Having a growth mindset is essential.
For sure. For sure.
So I hope for everyone listening today that you feel a little bit more, I don't want to say hopeful, but I say a little bit more equipped,
Empowered.
empowered. I like that. A little bit more empowered, more equipped, and really empowered to grow yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're your
Yeah.
biggest and best investment. You are your biggest and best investment, and no one is going to invest into you more than you.
1,000%. 1,000%. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Christina,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Thank you
sharing
for
your
inviting
insight and
me.
wisdom. We appreciate it so much. For folks looking to connect further on how, pivoting in this age of AI may or may not impact you, what does that look like for you? Really just looking for some support. I really do encourage you, schedule a consultation call with Cage Bird. So our discovery calls are at is it cagebirdhr.com/book. I would also encourage you download work receipts. We actually
I downloaded it.
our yeah, no. So Jayla is our AI tool within the Work Receipts app, and you can ask her questions, and she will respond to you. She will, give you some advice. So definitely download the Work Receipts app. It is available in both Google Play and the Apple App Store. So that is work, WRK, and then the word receipts. So it's plural. So definitely look for that. Download it. Utilize Jayla, who is AI. You can even ask Jayla some of those questions that, Christina and I were talking about earlier
Mhm.
with respect to skills and, industry and truly just making that pivot.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all greatly. Christina, thank you so much. And that
Thank
being said,
you.
we're going to jump. Have a wonderful evening, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.